back at y'all again. You know what I mean? You see me with the same t-shirt, nigga. Just know I'm cranking out hella videos a night. I don't wear this shirt every day, nigga. Now let me. The Moors have been a topic of much controversy lately. At least here in America. I wanted to clear a couple of things up before we even get into that. So the AI will tell you that the term Moor historically referred to Muslim populations, particularly in North Africa and the Iberian Peninsula, known as Spain and Portugal during the Middle Ages and later, yada, yada, yada. Um, Originally described Berbers and other inhabitants of the Roman province of Mauritania. Over time, it was used to describe any Muslim, especially those of Arab or Berber descent. That sounds good, but the reality is totally different than what they will try to tell you. We know that these Caucasians have been whitewashing history for a long time. So the picture in the of this video up above is a famous painting called Head of a Moor. Head of a Negro woman, but the alternative title to this painting from 19, well, technically 18 something, 1800 something, but the sale was in 1907, The Moorish Girl. So, they had to put they, racist touch on it by calling this grown woman a girl, but they called her Moor. So understand that. So now we're gonna just jump straight into some actual documented mentions of Moors here in the United States. I'm not even well. That might be a different video where we go and touch on shit in Europe, but just from the 18th century, like the 1700s, going to the 1800s in America alone. So you have the Treaty of Peace and Friendship with Morocco. This was a treaty that was put together in 1786. And in this treaty, it's with Morocco recognizing the United States as its own sovereign nation, which from that point, they've pretty much had for the most part, good relationship over the centuries going forward. And, everything's been gravy to a degree. Next, you got the George Washington's letter to the Sultan of Morocco, where he's not only, he's corresponding with the Sultan. Um, some of the American soldiers might have got snatched up, held hostage. Oh, that's another treaty. My bad. The George Washington's letter to the Emperor of Morocco. Okay, so in 1789, you got the George Washington letter to the Sultan of Morocco. We know what a sultan is, and we should know what an emperor is. An emperor is someone who usually have kings underneath him. So he writes to the Emperor of Morocco in 1791. And then they've been doing a lot of writing for some people that don't exist in America. George Washington doing a lot of writing to these niggas. George Washington's letter to the Emperor of Morocco, 1794. Basically, further correspondence emphasizing the ongoing diplomatic relations. So now, to move on to the next item on the list, the Naturalization Act of 1790, which I covered in another video. Go to the YouTube, the Paper Trails playlist, 10K Dre Media, hit the channel, check it out. I got it all for you. All right, so in this Naturalization Act, it says earlier citizenship laws classified who could be a citizenship, distinguishing Moors often considered free persons from enslaved Africans. So the fact that they had to put this into the Act of 1790, they had to basically distinguish free blacks from the enslaved blacks. And let that sink in. So, for those who think that the Moors were only Arabs or the brothers over there in North Africa, no, they were Moors were called Moors everywhere. Blacks that was in Europe were called Moors. Blacks in North Africa were called Moors. Blacks over here were called Moors. So we still in the year 1790. The Moorish Sundry Act, which was in South Carolina where this was passed, it recognized a group of free Moors as distinct from black slaves, granting them certain legal protections. So there you have that. You know, these in that regarding that act, I believe they were actual full slaves. Maybe they were accidentally, put into slavery. Whatever the case was, they got snatched up, they got rounded up, they was on the plantation. The long and short, because they were educated, they took the damn slave master to court, got their freedom, and then as a result of that, it was like, oh my bad, we thought you was just a regular Negro, you were more. And because they recognized their different class status, because America is nothing but a caste system, they were therefore, uh, you know, granted elevated rights and privileges that the average Negro did not have. It may be a lot for some of y'all, but I believe most of y'all are smarter than what society thinks of you. America is based, it's a class system. All right, so next you had John Adams and the Barbary Treaties. This is 1797 in America. The second U.S. president signed treaties with North African states, referring to them as Moors. Number eight, Thomas Jefferson's correspondence on the Barbary Wars, 1801 to 1805. A lot of y'all probably were never even taught about the Barbary Wars in history class in high school, and you probably was even not even taught about it in college level history classes because they don't want you to know anything other than the whitewash version that they gave you. So basically, the Barbary Wars and this correspondence from Thomas Jefferson, it discussed conflicts with the Moorish rulers of North Africa regarding piracy and tribute payments. Them boys was extorting the good people here in these 13 colonies. Run that bag or else we on that ass. Moorish captivity of American sailors, 1793 to 1805. U.S. government negotiated the release of American prisoners held by the Moors of Algiers, Tripoli, and Tunis. Some of those names should sound familiar, especially if you are a Marine. Okay, so now, number 10, the purchase of freedom for American captives, 1815. The United States paid ransom to release Americans held by the Dey of Algiers, described as a Moorish ruler. And all of these things you can Google and get information with more details on what happened here. So at this point, I might as well hit y'all with the further mentions of Moors in the 1800s in America. The U.S. Navy engagement with the Barbary States, which we just touched on. The Navy fought against the Moors of North Africa to end tribute payments. They said, we ain't being extorted no more. Enough is enough. Number 12, Moors are listed in the 1820 census records. Some census records distinguish Moors from other racial classifications. So, boom, you go to so the link takes you right to the National Archives. It's all here. It is all here documented. But moving on. Abdul Rahman Ibrahima Sori's freedom. In 1828, a West African prince enslaved in Mississippi was recognized by the U.S. government as a Moor and freed. If Moors were only Arabs, how the I ain't gonna say the word because I don't want to be demonetized, but how is a Moor confused with a Negro, black or colored, if they're not the same people? Because they're not. They are the same people. One has a certain class as opposed to another one having a lower class. That's it. Number 14, the Dred Scott case of 1857. Supreme Court Chief Justice Roger Taney referenced Moores in his argument about citizenship and race. Civil War draft exemptions for foreign Moors. Some men of Moorish descent were classified as foreign nationals and exempt from conscription. Let that one sink in. So they supposed to be Arabs from over there, but yet they had Civil War draft exemptions for Moors over here. There wasn't no Arabs over here. All right, so yeah, I'm just gonna touch on a couple of additional instances. Number two, Benjamin Banneker, a notable African American mathematician and astronomer who was sometimes referred to as having Moorish ancestry. This is the gentleman who designed the layout for Washington, D.C., based on astronomy. He also created, like, the Daily Almanac. Forgive my pronunciation there, but he's associated with having Moorish ancestry. But all these documented instances over like 200-300 years that I just touched on, stop playing these games. They always talk about, us being stripped of our true identity. These documents are giving you clues of what your true identity was to an extent. Because once again, the ancestors is no different than the people that's living today. Some people might identify as this, some people might identify as that, you know. Some people might identify as Indians. You still got blacks today, entire black families, family bloodlines that have always identified as certain tribes, Chickasaw, Choctaw, such and such, and they have the paperwork to verify and confirm and back up what they saying. Certain groups claiming Moorish descent have argued that they have ancestral rights to the land in the U.S. That should not be far fetched. We can look at just what these Caucasians have done to, our people, our ancestors, just from the 1900s to now. They've killed entire black towns or terrorized, murdered, etc., and literally ran off entire black towns. People who built homes from scratch, who had acres of land that they worked hard to get fresh out of slavery, and with clans slash, just regular whites from whatever in that town or neighboring town that was hating came, threatened, murdered to run off the black population, which is documented all throughout, especially the 1920s, from the 1910s all up to the 1930s. But that whole period is referred to as the Bloody 20s because that's when the most race massacres were taking place. And when I say race massacre, to be specific, whites straight massacring black people in these towns, your Rosewoods, your Tulsas, your Wilmington, North Carolinas, where Michael Jordan grew up. You gotta put your thinking cap on. If it was, whatever town you lived in, say if, shit, it's 2025, you in Decatur, Georgia, the Klan come through. Not only the Klan come through, they come through with all of the white people from nearby towns, thousands deep, and they just start shooting cats, as shown in that. I can't think of the TV series, but basically any of these old TV shows where they showing the Klan will give you the visual. If they come through and just start murdering all your neighbors willy nilly, burning their houses or putting crosses on their lawn, burning them, telling them to get out, or else we're gonna kill everybody, and people just get up and start bouncing, and they leave Decatur, and now they in like, I don't know, Boston, Massachusetts. That's a bad example because they more racist up there than even down here. But you get the drift. And them type under those conditions, the ancestors just up and left. We ain't trying to go back and get the damn the our valuables. We are fleeing for our lives because these devils are just that out of control. They didn't try to come back to go to court to dispute the land that these clans and these devils done just now moved into because they done murdered half of your block and moved in. You get what I'm saying? These poor whites who was hating on y'all that moved into the cribs that they didn't burn down have the acres of land that you used to have that they now are benefiting because they growing crops and selling and making produce. Them ancestors wasn't trying to go back to these different situations to dispute and like, nigga, I'm alive, I'm out of here, I'll start from scratch because we built like that. We don't fold. We may be dealing with adversity, but we gonna rebuild whatever needs to be rebuilt.